Candy, and this is Debbie, and we are Grandma's Out of Control. I've had a medical emergency, and then Debbie had her mom pass away. So we've both been fairly busy.
My mother passed away a couple weeks ago, and it turns out my mom taught me a very valuable lesson on forgiveness a few years before she died. Mom had dementia or something similar. It wasn't Alzheimer's, but it was some sort of memory loss issue. So she started losing her memory, and it became progressively worse and worse and worse, to the point that after my father died, we moved her into a memory care center. Now, between my father's death and getting her moved and getting her to her memory care center, she spent a little more than a month living with my husband and I. So you kind of think that you've lost your ability to learn from your mother when she thinks that your vacuum cleaner is a cat. Okay. So she thought our Roomba was a cat. And she came in, she woke me up one morning really, really upset, saying something's wrong with the cat. And it made a funny noise and ran under the couch. And by the time I figured out it was the Roomba, well, to make a long story short, we just started calling it the cat, and we got this cat eye stickers for it. And it's easier than arguing with somebody with dementia. So that was the cat. But she used to go through a list every day of telling me certain things, like, I don't remember what my parents looked like. I don't remember their faces. I don't remember different things. And one thing that she said every day is, I don't remember anything anyone had ever done wrong to me. And after a couple of days, that started making me curious. So I asked her about that. And what it really boiled down to is she's saying she doesn't have anything in her heart to forgive anymore. And so I asked her about that. I said, what does it feel like to not have that? And she would make the motion. She says, I don't have this and this. And I'd say, well, what does that mean? And she says, I don't feel that anymore. So what she actually was saying was very profound, is there was an actual weight to this unforgiveness. The actual weight of unforgiveness, how it's a burden to you to carry. And all of, we're told that biblically, that it's a weight that we carry. She would not have been categorized as an unforgiving and vindictive person, but it was so subtle. But yet when it was removed, she noticed that. She recognized that. Now, he tells us in the Lord's Prayer, Jesus tells us, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors.
Jesus is giving a parable about the kingdom of heaven is like.
How many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times? Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who owed him 10,000 bags of gold was brought to him. Since he was not able to pay, the master ordered that he and his wife and his children and all that he had be sold to repay the debt. At this, the servant fell on his knees before him. Be patient with me, he begged, and I will pay back everything. The servant's master took pity on him, cancelled the debt, and let him go. But when that servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 silver coins. He grabbed him and began to choke him. Pay back what you owe me, he demanded. His fellow servant fell to his knees and begged him, be patient with me, and I will pay it back. But he refused. Instead, he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay the debt.
But it concludes in verse 32, chapter 18 of Matthew. Then the master called the servant in. You wicked servant, he said, I canceled all that debt of yours because you begged me. Shouldn't you have mercy on your fellow servant, just as I had mercy on you? In anger, his master turned him over to the jailers to be tortured until he should pay all of what he owed. This is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive your brother.
And that's very profound. Now, how would you define forgiveness, Candy?
The act of forgiving someone is an actual release of allowing yourself to be free from being upset, mad, vengeful towards another person. I believe it's absolutely imperative that we learn how to do this. And I was telling Debbie before the video started that I was the queen of revenge. I was the queen of grudges before little Lord came to me and basically told me his sacrifice was for me, and that my sacrifice in this world should also be to forgive others.
My mother had to forget to forgive. Do you have to forgive and forget? What do you think about that?
No, your brain can remember. Your brain will always remember. But at the same time, we know that all of this is in God's hands and that our hearts need to remain soft, and we need to find a way to soften our hearts and have forgiveness for the person who has done something for us.
So, in fact, that the person who's done something to you that requires forgiveness, you're removing that debt from them.
Exactly.
You're taking that debt away. They don't even owe you an apology, because if they even had to ask for forgiveness, then they would hold you hostage and you would not be able to forgive without them taking an action. So forgiveness is in total control of the person who was harmed.
Exactly.
I once heard somebody say, not forgiving somebody is like shooting yourself in the foot and expecting the other person to bleed. It's just nonsensical. If you don't have to ask for forgiveness, and if you don't have to be held hostage, it's totally your option to forgive. And the burden that is released is so huge that somebody who thought the Roomba was a cat could feel that coming off of her. You know, she literally felt that. She had no idea who I was. I know was the nice person who smiled at her and took care of her. She thought she was probably related to me, but she wasn't quite certain. Didn't know my name. And I'm one of 2 daughters of hers. But she felt the absence of that weight on her shoulders. One day I actually even asked her, I said, if you had a choice between having your memory back and having that back on you, what would you pick? And she says, oh, it's so much better to have no memory and to not remember that. I was thinking back of all the things that my mother taught me in life. This might have been one of the most profound. And she did it when she had dementia. When you see somebody whose mind deteriorates and it becomes so much smaller than what she was in real life. I mean, she was a very dynamic, very powerful person. Because she felt this, that was a way of God freeing her from this, so that she can meet him with an absolute clear heart, that she had no unforgiveness left in her body.
It's amazing. But again, think about the sacrifice that Christ made for us. And I feel like this is the least we can do as we move through life, as we are offended, as we have become hurt or maybe even destroyed by things that have happened in our life being caused by someone else. It is a sacrifice to forgive, but it's what Christ is calling us to do on a daily basis in order to follow him.
And we will reap rewards from this eternally and here on earth.
This is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you, unless you forgive your brother or sister from your heart.
So that's about all the time we have today.
So this is Grandma's Out of Control saying goodbye.
Bye. Catch you next time.